Thanks to the secretive nature of North Korea, not much is known about this country. Sadly, it's hard to believe anything that comes from the nation's government, but there have been some revelations from the women who live there. Just wait until you hear a secret about the country's military. Stay tuned to see what it is. If you are new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe and please give this video a big thumbs up. Today we are discussing 10 confessions of North Korean women that will shock you. No love stories. We've mentioned in other videos about this secretive country that media from other countries is pretty much illegal. That means movies like Titanic and Love Actually aren't available for mass consumption. Also, under the rule of Kim Il-sung, it was illegal for movies, books, or music to include declarations of love. This means that growing up, little boys and girls weren't introduced to romantic love stories. Could you imagine growing up and never being able to see how romantic relationships can be? We know that most movies aren't practical with their portrayal of loving couples, but that doesn't mean a girl can't dream. But in North Korea, little girls literally can't dream about finding a romantic and loving partner because they don't even know they exist. But luckily, it seems like things have changed over time for North Korea. The country's former leader Kim Jong-il was surprisingly romantic and started allowing declarations of love to be in movies. So while you may be able to see some romantic movies in North Korea these days, it still comes with some interesting parameters. There can't be any talk about past loves, love triangles, and significant age differences in North Korean romantic films. Sounds pretty strange, right? Food shortages. On the outside, North Korean leaders want the world to think that they take great care of their citizens, but sadly this isn't the case. There are actually a scary amount of people who are either malnourished or actually starving. One woman told a story about eating dirt just to make her stomach stop hurting. Another North Korean girl confessed that her family was so hungry that they tried to hunt rats. But sadly, the rats were so skinny that they weren't even worth eating. This isn't an uncommon story in this country either. There are roughly 25 million North Koreans, and as much as 40% of the population is considered malnourished by the UN. It also doesn't help that the country has been going through a drought, which is making it hard for food to grow. With so many mouths to feed and nothing to put in it, we aren't sure how much longer this country can put up with this charade. And sadly, because of rising tensions with South Korea and the US, any international food aid from these countries has been cut off. North Korean government have complete control over who gets what and how much. And considering 2/3 of the population depends on their government to give them their food rations, we aren't sure when the devastation will end. The calendar. We all know how calendars work, right? Pretty much every country in the world can agree on what day it is and what year. Every country except North Korea, that is. This secretive country decided to toss the traditional calendar out the window and come up with their own. It's called the Juche calendar, and it all started when their former leader, Kim Il-sung, was born. For those of you who don't know, Kim Il-sung was born in 1912, so you can do the math of what year North Korea is in. What is even crazier is that this calendar wasn't even implemented until 1997. That means when North Koreans started using it, instead of starting in year 1, they were already in year 86. We are pretty sure this must have confused a few people, and the rest of the world at the same time. Thankfully, this hasn't been a huge deal in the grand scheme of things. One thing that did throw the rest of the world for a loop back in 2011 was when North Korea decided to make its own time zone. We guess countries have the prerogative to do whatever they want, but instead of setting clocks back a full hour, like daylight savings time, the country's leader decided to put the clocks back half an hour. They saw this as a victory over imperial history. It just seems a little passive-aggressive to us. Wedding days. Many men and women can expect their wedding day is going to be all about them. Sadly, if you are a man or woman in North Korea, that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, the government and the Workers' Party have a say over everything about their wedding day. One woman who escaped the country confessed that women don't get bouquets to throw. They do, however, get an arrangement of flowers to lay at the feet of the statues of the country's leaders. That isn't the only bizarre tradition. The government actually prohibits people from walking down the aisle on April 15th and February 16th. Why? Because these are the birthdays of the former leaders, of course. Now, one of every couple's favorite part of getting married is jetting off for their honeymoon. This is another luxury that is not afforded to North Korean newlyweds. Because its citizens aren't even allowed to leave the country, North Korean couples would never dream of having a honeymoon in a faraway place. Instead, after their vows are exchanged and they are congratulated by friends and family, the couple goes home and goes to work the next day. What do you think about these shocking wedding traditions? How would you like it if you were forbidden to have a honeymoon? Tell us what you think in the comment section below. No pants allowed. We've talked about the strict dress code in North Korea in the past, but we haven't really touched on the gender-specific rules. And when it comes to controlling what women wear, North Korea has a pretty shocking list. It's rumored that women in this country aren't allowed to wear sleeveless shirts or skirts that are too short. While we can understand the government wanting to be modest, what we don't understand is this next rule. Women in North Korea are not allowed to wear pants. Yes, you heard that correctly. No pants for the ladies. Instead, they must wear modest length skirts and dresses. Could you imagine not being able to wear your favorite leggings or trousers? How about this next fact? North Koreans aren't even allowed to wear blue jeans. The country's leader thinks it's too Western to wear denim, so it's illegal. Which was probably fine with women because they couldn't wear pants to begin with. We don't mind wearing cute dresses and skirts every day, but sometimes it's nice to just throw on a pair of comfy pants. This is especially true when it's cold outside. Though we are sure they have their reasons, we just can't get over the fact that North Korean women get in trouble for wearing pants. It's that bizarre. Housework. There are certain gender roles in North Korea that are enforced by the country's government. For example, men must show up to their government-assigned jobs every day, even if they aren't getting paid. Because of this, women are left with doing all the housework. This might sound like your ideal situation, but it's not what it's cracked up to be. Because men are earning little to nothing with their jobs, women are forced to take matters into their own hands. Modern North Korean women have started selling goods or services on the gray market. The gray market is like a black market and are commonplace in the country, even though they are illegal. And now that business is booming and women actually make 70% worth of the country's household income. But it seems like old habits die hard. While women may be taking home the bacon these days, they are still expected to take care of the house as well. It is still looked down upon for a wife to allow her husband into the kitchen. And because of societal norms, women are pulling double duty. We can barely keep our rooms clean, let alone have an exhausting career and clean the whole house. This just doesn't seem fair, but usually nothing is when talking about this shocking nation. No bikes. If you live in a big city, you probably already know that biking is one of the best ways to get around. You don't have to worry about filling up on your gas tank, and they are great for avoiding traffic. Plus, usually everyone learns to ride a bike at some point in their life. It's just a way of life. That is, unless you are a woman in North Korea. In the 90s, the daughter of an important military general passed away in a biking accident. Since that day, the leaders of the country made it illegal for women to use bicycles as a mode of transportation. They just felt it was too dangerous. Surprisingly, in 2011, Kim Jong-un lifted the no biking for women law. We are sure they are thrilled to finally be able to get around easier. Considering many people don't own cars, we can assume walking that much got tiresome for these ladies. But sadly, the good news didn't last long. In early 2012, the leader made it illegal for women to ride bikes once again. Our hearts break for these women. We are sure it's not fair watching their male counterparts get to enjoy a nice bike ride. But not following the rules in such a strict country can have some devastating results, and it's just not worth it to break them. Beauty standards. If you know anything about the Korean beauty movement, you know that it is very influential on the rest of the world. And because they are so close, it looks like South Korea is rubbing off on its northern counterpart. Though many women can't afford makeup or beauty products, North Korean women still have some beauty standards to live up to. One woman confessed that their standards seem a little similar to South Korean beauty standards. In North Korea, women are expected to have large eyes, and though it is illegal, they will seek out cosmetic surgery to gain them. This is usually at a great risk because there aren't really any certified plastic surgeons performing these operations. Another standard these women long to emulate is having a high nose. We aren't even sure what that means. North Korean women also expect to have small mouths and white skin that they attain by using brightening cream. And finally, these women are expected not to be thin. We aren't sure if that means they should be curvy or what, but apparently being too skinny isn't attractive in North Korea. If that is the case, you wouldn't think the government would feed them better. Either way, we think all beauty standards are tough to live up to, but we could imagine it's even tougher in such a restricted country. Violence against women. There is a big secret in the North Korean military, and it seems like no one is addressing it. According to a woman who deflected the country, there are many acts of violence against women in the military. What is more disturbing is the fact that it is being done by high-ranking male officers against low-ranking females. The deflector described that her unit was made up of 120 officers, 20 of which were high-ranking men. In her time in the military, the woman said every female had been abused by one of the 20 men that were in her unit. We can't imagine how powerless these women must have felt. Sadly, this isn't an occurrence that only happens in the military. Because North Korea is so patriarchal, women don't really have a say in anything. Yes, they are finally starting to make their own money, but they can't even decide how to use it. Men control everything, and women are looked at as weak and submissive. So when men abuse their wives, people usually turn the other cheek. It is thought of as a normal occurrence, or it is a domestic problem and outsiders aren't welcome to their opinions, which just perpetuates the cycle of violence against women in this secretive country. Military service is a must. Many countries force their citizens to serve their country when they get to a certain age. While most of the time it's just the male citizens that have to take the call to serve, in North Korea, men and women must both join the military. This actually wasn't always the case. In 2015, a law was passed making it mandatory for women to serve alongside the men. Before this sanction, women could volunteer, but they weren't forced. It is believed that the government had to pass this law because of the country's dwindling resources and lack of volunteers. Things still aren't equal though. Men do serve in the military longer than women. The ladies are expected to join between the ages of 17 and 20 and are forced to stay until they are 23. Sadly, it is reported that the leader of the country isn't very equal when it comes to who is going to the front lines. Apparently, in April 2017, North Korea's dictator claimed he would move as many as 500,000 women soldiers to the front lines if a war with the West were to break loose. Thankfully, it isn't confirmed that the country has that many female soldiers. So it just goes to show you never know what you're getting with this interesting but very much out there country. But chances are it's never the truth. Are you shocked by any of these stories? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe to The Taco.